Hey everybody, it's Kelly. Welcome back to another episode of Ask a Therapist. Been a while since we did a response to Am I the A-hole on Reddit? And so we're going to do that today. This time we're going to focus on some of the religious trauma Am I the A-hole questions. Let's dive in. I, 20-year-old female, started a new job for a mental health organization. My role is essentially to talk about my life story and experience with mental illness in schools and workplaces in a safe way. A big part of our training is to recognize triggers and communicating them to the rest of the team so we can be mindful to not accidentally trigger someone. One girl, Grace, mentioned that she's uncomfortable when people use the Lord's name in vain because she is Christian, so we've been requested not to do that. Stuff like, oh my gosh, instead of oh my God, that's fine. Everyone's totally fine about that. I requested that we minimize talking about Christianity around me due to past trauma. I escaped a Christian cult as a teenager, so I'm deeply uncomfortable being around obviously Christian people. I mean, people who are consistently referencing it. I'm aware there are different types of Christianity, but just any mention of God, etc., triggers my PTSD, and I don't appreciate people talking about their faith in front of me because I'm still working through that trauma. I don't hate Christians or anything like that. It was just a request that I felt was reasonable due to the nature of our job. Grace has been told not to say God bless to me, but it's perfectly fine to put a cross on her desk, etc. We do safe storytelling workshopping as part of the job, and Grace talking about how she personally found religion to be helpful is also totally okay. The request was specifically made for anything involving me, and I'm trying not to make anyone's life difficult here. Grace flipped out over this and has been very hostile towards me, claiming that I'm being discriminatory towards her. We usually go out in pairs to do talks in schools, and Grace refuses to work with me because of this. As part of my job whilst talking about the harm organized religion has done to me, I feel like I should have just as much right to be adverse to a religion as someone else does for believing in it. My boss is totally fine with my request, and also will not assign me to work with any religious schools unless I request it. Grace and a couple of other coworkers think I've done something wrong because I'm not respecting Grace's religion and have made an awkward work environment. I just want my situation to be respected, but I don't know if I'm being an asshole for requesting this or not. Okay. I mean, the quick and easy answer is if your boss is fine with it, your boss is the one who gets to decide if it's fine or not. So obviously it's fine. The bigger issue here is that it's okay in general in our society for Christians to be out there with their faith and for that to be included in things. And it's not okay for people to say things like they have religious trauma or they have pain behind religion. It's dismissed as, well, that was the church and not religion, or that was people and not God. And it's just sort of dismissed and not to be talked about. And then many Christian organizations will say they're being persecuted and that everyone is against them and that things are so terrible for them. It's always been a very interesting thing to me, even when I was working for church organizations, and I've really understood how in America Christians thought they were being persecuted in. Anyway, that said, there's not a lot of argument for you being the asshole in this situation. There is a lot of nuance to it that would need to be talked about with a third party that has authority over both you and Grace if you wanted to move forward here. If you're working in a mental health platform and you're going out into schools to talk mental health and to have people talk about their experiences, and you have a group of you where some of the group is looking at you as somebody who is making it a hostile environment, but no one's talking about it, I'm kind of wondering what your job is doing. Like, do as I say and not as I do? Is that what your job is? Because you should be exercising what the rest of you are teaching other people to do. You need to be sitting down together and talking this out. The rules need to be explicit and need to be clear for everyone, and it needs to come from someone higher than all of you, your boss, or if you have like a team lead or something, somebody who is in authority over all of you once it is talked out. But everyone needs to have like a way to sort of get their emotions out and talk about how they're feeling and to squash whatever beef is going on so that everyone can move forward and have an understanding of where everyone stands. Because in reality, this is only going to make your job harder. Well, the job for everyone harder. Like, it's the same problem that exists in community mental health across the board, right? We expect people to be like caring for people's mental health when their mental health is going down the drain because their caseload is huge. Like, it doesn't work like that. That's how burnout happens. If you're not caring for your mental health, eventually you can't care for the mental health of others either. Okay, next one. Extra here, 2 people had a baby together. Fred and OP. Fred is now married to Carol and OP is engaged to Andrew. Fred was raised in a religious family. OP has a lot of religious trauma. Fred was not religious until getting married to Carol, and as you'll see, kind of now is. OP still not religious. Now let's read. Our daughter is 1 month shy of 5. My ex, Fred, is married to a woman. We'll call her Carol. That he cheated on me with. It's complicated, and my fiance is a trans man. We'll call him Andrew. He's the love of my life and has helped me heal and love myself in ways I didn't know were possible. He loves me unconditionally and has set the bar so high no one could even come close. He loves my daughter like she's his own, truly. The way he treats her and cares for her makes me incredibly proud to be with him. He is the man of both of our dreams, and she feels the same about him. She's obsessed. Over the past 5 years, Fred has become extremely religious, as is his wife. They talk to our daughter about Christianity constantly. She brings it up so regularly and so consistently when she's at my house. I assume it's the only thing they ever talk about. She relates everything back to God, and I mean everything. I've learned to redirect the conversation so as not to invalidate her beliefs and feelings, while also making sure she knows there are scientific explanations for almost everything, and that we can be good and loving and kind people without believing in God. Every topic is up for conversation, and she's a curious kid. It's getting tiresome to combat these beliefs so regularly, but it's important that she be able to think for herself and to come to her own conclusions. Unfortunately, that energy is not being matched at her dad's house. It's very clear that they have one-track mind regarding how they choose to parent, and that one track leads directly to the God of the Bible. I make a concerted effort not to let my religious trauma affect my reactions to this indoctrination. However, I'm at my breaking point. My fiance and I had a brief conversation with my daughter about what it means to be trans. She was asking questions about our bodies, which we answered in an age-appropriate way. We have conversations about the LGBTQ plus community, and all the time. 2 of her aunts are lesbians, and I'm queer. It gets discussed regularly. But this was the first time we got into some more detail about my fiance. He explained that he was born with girl parts, female reproductive organs, vagina, breasts, etc. We always use anatomically correct language, but that he knew from a very young age that he was born in the wrong body and he was supposed to be a boy. We kept the conversation short and age appropriate while also giving her the information she asked for. When she was ready to move on from the conversation we did, it was completely led by her. My ex, Fred, has expressed issue with Andrew being trans. I can't even pretend to be respectful here. He is completely transphobic. So we felt it was important and respectful that we let him and his wife know that we'd had a conversation about trans people and let them know what kind of language we used, and communicated that the conversation was driven by our daughter out of curiosity. The response was lackluster at best, disrespectful at worst. Here's a direct quote. As always, communication is appreciated, but I completely disagree that it was an appropriate time to discuss your genitals/gender with my daughter. However, kid-friendly you tried to make it. So we will all definitely need to sit down whenever we can make that happen. I'm upset because my partner went out of his way to be respectful and communicative about something that is none of Fred or Carol's business. I've requested to have a conversation with Fred privately. I don't feel that it's appropriate that he is acting like his parental opinion is the only one that matters. I disagree heavily with everything he teaches our daughter, but I'm willing to be respectful as long as I'm extended the same courtesy. It's looking like he's going to dig his heels in about my partner being trans, and I absolutely won't stand for it. Am I the asshole for letting my religious trauma win here? I understand that all Christians and churches aren't bad, but it just seems weird that they put so much focus on it, especially when she's so young. At the end of the day, it's a personal belief system that they can choose to practice, but it shouldn't affect the way me and my fiance choose to parent. Am I wrong here? It is never wrong to teach a child proper names for body parts. It is never wrong to be honest with a child about the fact that there are different people out there and people can feel different ways about their bodies, and to do that in a body positive manner and to give them language around what that means. And it is beyond unfortunate that there are religious beliefs out there that make that seem like a dirty or negative thing. Also, Fred does get a say in how his child's parented, because that's how the world works in a legal state. But OP and Andrew are not getting a say in how much Christianity is brought into the child's life, and Christianity is not fact. Body parts are fact. Are you the asshole for telling her who Andrew is? Absolutely not. Are you the asshole for telling Fred that you had the conversation? Absolutely not. Are you the asshole, your actual question, for letting your religious trauma win? I don't know that you've done that. Your religious trauma, I don't actually think is coming into play here the way that it seems to you, OP, that it is. This entire situation would be so much easier if they were practicing, I don't know, actual Christianity the way the Bible says, which is like, I don't know, loving everybody and caring for people who are hungry and people who don't have homes to live in or are, you know, like sick and need healthcare, people who are in danger, and needs safety. But instead, so much of Christianity in America, anyway, is focused on very different things. So that's problematic. Sitting down and having the conversation between just you and Fred is obviously an option, but to ignore the fact that Carol and Andrew are obviously a part of her life would not be fair to your daughter, and also circumvents Andrew's autonomy in the situation. I feel like that suggestion is an effort to protect Andrew, honestly. And that is not something you need to do. If Andrew decides not to be in the conversation, that's fine. He has every right to do that. If Carol decides not to be in the conversation, that's fine. She has every right to do that. But that's not something that you need to choose for them, either of them, because these are adults in this child's life. The focus has shifted from what's best for the child into what do the parents want. What is best for the child is always to know that there are so many things bigger than them in the world, and that their curiosity is wonderful, and that asking questions is beautiful, and learning things is amazing. And I would really, really heavily suggest the four of you go to a family counselor, honestly, at least a couple of sessions to talk about how to bridge the gap between the four of you for the betterment of her, because that child's life is only going to get more confusing as those just diametrically opposed households continue to be linked by her. Okay, last one. OP is a man writing in about his partner, Steve. My partner, Steve, and I have both been in a relationship for going on 3 years. While we love each other very much, lately there has been some tension around marriage discussions. Steve has been very well aware that I've had my wedding planned since I was 18 and I want a grand event. Steve comes from a very religious family, and although they know we're together and are cordial towards me, they are not fully accepting of us being gay, and we sort of operate on a don't see, don't tell basis around them. My family is super open and welcoming, so there's that. Today on a drive, I mentioned a friend's upcoming wedding and her catering. Steve's immediate response was, well, you're not going to like this, but I've pretty much decided I don't want a wedding. I'd rather do a court thing and honeymoon. I don't need to show off to anyone like others feel they do. He then went into detail how he doesn't even know if his parents or family would go or not. My immediate response was, okay, well, if we were to get married, I don't think it's cool that I have to give up something so big and important to me that you've known I want in my life since we started dating, whether it was with you or with someone else. Although I'm flexible on the dream wedding, I think it's wrong to make a decision solely to avoid others because of their views on us or because of their religion. And while I'm open to meeting in the middle, a wedding to celebrate with friends and family is also something that is core to what I want in life. Steve is now upset with me and giving me the cold shoulder because he said I'm not taking his or his family's beliefs into consideration. I get it would suck if his family didn't show up for something so grand, but also wondering if I'm the asshole because I'm not viewing it from that perspective and see it more as Steve catering to his family. You're not going to love my answer. Aren't you already okay with that? You've been together for 3 years and you are going to Steve's family's house and pretending like you're not together. And I'm not saying you're doing the wrong thing. You need to do what's best for you in your relationship, but you also can't be shocked that Steve wants to continue doing what makes his family comfortable. Right? Did you think that when you got engaged, that was going to change? Because that's not how people work. Now, Steve, at some point, needs to decide who he is and how much his family gets to decide who he is, right? There's a little bit of both needing to meet each other somewhere in this. And the bottom line is neither of you seem to be, according to this, hearing what the other one is saying or hearing what the other one needs. I'd recommend relationship counseling, at least a couple sessions, because Steve is telling you that it is so scary for him that his family might so openly reject the relationship that he is committing to for the rest of his life, that he is willing to not have something he knows you want so that he doesn't have to experience that pain. And you're not hearing that. And I'm not saying he's right. I'm just saying you're not hearing that, right? And Steve is not hearing that you don't want to live that life forever. He's just not hearing you. So my deeper question is why? Why are you not hearing each other when you're saying that? And why are you not interacting with those deeper questions that you need to be asking each other. Like, why are they not being asked? Why is it so easy to avoid those deeper pains? The statement of, I don't need to show off to anyone like others feel like they do. Is he talking about you? Is he talking about other people who have like queer weddings? Why is having a wedding showing off? That term, if that's verbatim, is saying a lot about where he is with his own comfortability about everything. And that's the conversation that needs to happen. Are you the asshole for wanting what you want? Obviously not. No, you're not. You get to want what you want, and so does he. And if you can't find a way to meet in the middle, then that does mean that for both of you, what you need is more important than what the other person needs in any way. And then maybe that's not the relationship for you. That's okay. Well, that was fun. Do me a favor and link any Reddit's stories, Am I the Assholes, that you want me to respond to, because I do these every now and then. They're kind of fun for me. But sometimes I just run into the same old. So if you have any that you want me to respond to, go ahead and throw them in the comments. And yeah. And that's it for today. Thank you so much for being here. I will see you all next time. And until then, take care of yourselves and each other.